Hello. Thank you for joining us today for this awesome webinar on educator well-being, hosted by Renee Van Norman of Well Educator and supported by Northwest PBIS Network and Northwest Mental Health Technology Transfer Center. After a few session logistics tips, I will tell you more about Renee and hand the session off to her. You will all be muted and your videos off for our time together, but you can use the Q&A feature to ask us anything about the webinar, other supports and resources, or any technical problems you might run into. This session is being recorded and will be posted within a week. The link to the page where you can find the recordings will be in the chat. At the end of the presentation, we will put a link in the chat for a short evaluation survey. This survey is required by our funder and is used to inform, refine, and enhance future events and activities. This survey is voluntary and anonymous. After you complete this survey, you will be able to access the link for clock hours for this event. The University of Washington Smart Center and Northwest MHTTC and Northwest PBIS Network acknowledge that we learn, live, and work on the ancestral lands of the Coast Salish people and the ancestral lands of the Kalapuya and Siuslaw people who walked here before us, and those who still walk here. We are grateful to respectfully live and work as guests on these lands with the Native people who call this home. Dr. Renee Van Norman is a curious, compassionate visionary with a passion for teaching and educator well-being. Over the past 20 years, she has worked in a variety of roles in education, including higher education, early childhood education, and as an education specialist at the state level. Her passion for educator well-being and her effective and engaging presentations inspire educators to define and follow their own well-being plan for the betterment of themselves, their students, and the institution in which they serve. When she's not working, she enjoys hiking, camping, birding, and time with her partner Keith and two dogs, Charlie and Zoe. And now here is Dr. Renee Van Norman.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you so much for that introduction, and welcome everyone to Educator Wellbeing 101, Practical Tips to Help You Soar. You've made it to a Friday, and I'm just so excited to be here with you today to help you with your well-being. And you've made it through another week in this challenging time. And you should be very proud of yourself for taking time out to help your own well-being. I just wanted to pop in and put a face to the name because that picture doesn't give you a face. And so I just wanted to pop in with a video, but I'm going to go ahead and pop out so that we can really focus on the content today. You have reflective notes to help you stay engaged with the material. These are designed to help you follow along and actively participate with the PowerPoint slides and virtual training. You can make notes, write questions, expand your thinking on the topic, or just doodle. These notes correspond directly to the content presented in the PowerPoint slides. I don't give out my PowerPoint slides because they have a lot of pictures in them, and it really doesn't make sense. But you can follow along with those reflective notes, and if you don't have access to them right now, you can have access to them later on the Mental Health Technology Transfer Center website. And then you can reflect on what you've learned today. So our plan together today is to understand stressors affecting educator well-being. Learn simple, but not always easy ways to decrease stressors. Learn and experience 3 mindfulness exercises, if you're willing to participate. And create a committed self-care action plan. We'll get started on that. This is our plan, our roadmap for today. But right now, I'd like you to just settle into this moment by completing this sentence for yourself. Right now, I will put aside my thoughts of, by, so I can. I'll give you an example. Right now, I will put aside my thoughts of this being a clunky presentation, by, letting those thoughts float by like thoughts on a cloud, so I can be present and authentic in my thoughts, words, and actions with you here today. So right now, maybe you can put aside those thoughts of maybe not having made a connection with a student this week, or maybe a Zoom session didn't go as you thought it might have. By letting those thoughts just go, so you can be present here today. Just this moment, just this task, taking time out for you. So complete that sentence for yourself. We'll take just a moment. Hopefully you were able to put some of those worry thoughts aside, or just those thoughts that are popping into your head as you're putting time aside for yourself today. So we're going to start with maybe defining educator well-being. McCollum and Price do a lot of education on educator well-being, and they talk about educator well-being as diverse and fluid, respecting individual, family, and community beliefs, values, experiences, and culture, opportunities and contexts across time and change. It is something we all aim for, underpinned by positive notions, yet is unique to each of us and provides us with a sense of who we are, which needs to be respected. You can probably come up with your own definition of what it means to have a sense of well-being. It really means being effective in one's environment. So we're all on the same page of what it means to have educator well-being. Think of what it means to be effective in your own environment, what it means to have that sense of overall well-being for yourself. Now we're going to get into the tough stuff. What does it mean to have causes of teacher stress? Some of the research shows that rises in student demands and expectations, that increase in workload and administrative demands, vulnerability due to accountability, lack of time to meet those administrative requirements, interpersonal communications with parents, that lack of social and emotional competency training. How about those expectations of self and that need for perfectionism? These are all stressors, the tough stuff that we deal with on a day-to-day basis that are some underlying causes of teacher stress. Did you know that we can be involved in up to 1,000 interpersonal contacts a day? How about this research? We can make up to 1,500 decisions a day. And then this lovely child asks us, "What's for dinner?" And we wonder what our hot buttons are, what sets us off. This all leads to stressors that can lead to us having difficulties in the work that we do. And then we have the pandemic that leads to changes in how we teach, how we plan, how we're connecting or not connecting with students, families, our colleagues and administration, how we monitor attendance, and how we measure learning. And the list goes on. How we're balancing our family life and our work life, or how we're having difficulties in doing just that. And this all leads to stress. And maybe days just like this. I don't know about you, but I've had a few more days of this than I've had of peace and calm that I seek for my own well-being. I've interacted with my computer one too many days like this. So what do? What tools do we have? Well, we have one that we carry with us, one that we can use at any time, anywhere that we are, and that's our breath. So if you're willing, I don't know about you, but just talking about those stressors, my heart rate has increased, my shoulders have been creeping up to my ears, my speech has gotten a little quicker, I'd like to invite you to do an exercise called 4 square or box breathing with me. It's something we can carry with us. And 4 square breathing, also called box breathing, is a great technique to use, especially when you feel stressed or feel stress coming on in the form of an increased heart rate, shallow breathing, or a tense body. This type of controlled breathing can help calm nerves and relieve stress by helping to regulate the autonomic nervous system. Box breathing emphasizes control through counts of 4, which allows your body to make full use of the air. We're going to follow an adaptation of the steps from an article by Linda Ray, and you can find that link in your reflective notes. So if you're willing, I wrote down this exercise so I can follow through. If you're willing, please join me. If you're able, sit up straight in a comfortable chair. Put your feet flat on the floor and relax your hands in your lap. You may overlap your hands or let them lie separately with palms facing up. The important factor is to maintain an aligned posture and to be at ease. Close your eyes if you choose, or gaze downward. Closed eyes meditations or breathing exercises should always be a choice. Close your mouth and breathe in slowly through your nose. Count to 4 if that is comfortable to you as you inhale. Hold your breath for 4 seconds. You are not trying to deprive your body of oxygen, but you need to allow a few seconds for the air to fill your lungs. Concentrate on your belly and notice how it also moves when you inhale deeply. Open your mouth slightly and slowly exhale to the count of 4. Hold the exhale to another count of 4. Ideally, we would repeat the exercise for 4 minutes, but we'll do it 3 times and perhaps you'll achieve a relaxed state, relieve any tension, and settle any nerves. So on your own counts, allow the air to fill your belly and notice how it passes over your chest. Continue your box breathing for 3 more rounds or until you hear my bell ring. In her article, Linda writes, one of the goals of box breathing is to bring the respiratory system back into alignment and end the shallow breathing that results from the fight or flight response mode the body enters when feeling stressed. Researchers with the National Center for Complementary and Alternative Medicine report that in addition to reducing stress, controlled breathing is used to treat insomnia, anxiety, depression, and pain control. I hope that was able to help you settle in to our time together and relieve any tension that our discussion of stress might have brought up or any stress that you brought with you today. And that's something you can carry with you. Your breath is with you all of the time, and you can carry this exercise with you, or just deep breathing. Let me be clear. We have organizational conditions, systemic conditions that must change in order for educator well-being to change. However, in order for us to make those changes, we need to be well. And we need to focus on how we interact with our thoughts, feelings, and body sensations and actions so we can cultivate our own resilience. So we have the well-being to make those changes in those organizational conditions and systemic conditions. We need to pour from a well that is full and bright to make those condition changes. But let me be clear again, it is not on the backs of educators, and it won't be just self-care that makes the difference. It is the combination of all three of these that will make the difference in moving the needle for educator well-being. But today's focus that brought you here today is on individual resilience, on Educator Wellbeing 101. And that's the focus today, how we interact with our thoughts, feelings, and body sensations, and the actions we take to cultivate our resilience. When I was learning some of these tactics, I was learning about all of these things that I could do to help myself and my own well-being. And I was learning through the research and through the experiences that I had about how I could connect to my senses, how I can open up to possibilities, how I can arrange my environment and reinforce. And I needed to come up with an acronym, and here's SOAR, and I'm bringing that to you today. Connecting to our senses. What does that mean? Well, that means that we're going to practice mindfulness. We're going to practice being present in the present moment, connecting to our senses, being here now in the present moment. There's lots of definitions of mindfulness, and I brought you two today that really connect to what it means to be open, curious, flexible, and kind without judgment, and that's by Dr. Russ Harris. Dr. Rick Hanson, staying in the present, in this moment, as it is, moment after moment, rather than daydreaming, ruminating, or being distracted. And that's a tall order, rather than being distracted, because we all get distracted. And mindfulness is something that you can cultivate by practicing. And later on in today's presentation, we're going to talk about ways you can do that in your everyday routines by practicing and cultivating mindfulness, by connecting to your senses, by being in the present moment, and cultivating that moment of pause where you can actually have a moment where you respond rather than react to a situation, even under stressful conditions. So next we're going to watch a film by Happify that talks about all the great benefits of mindfulness. And it talks about all the wonders of mindfulness and how you can cultivate mindfulness in your everyday practices.
You may have heard this word mindfulness. It's become something of a buzz phrase of late. I'm going to give you one simple, serviceable definition, which is this. Mindfulness is the ability to know what's happening in your head at any given moment without getting carried away by it. Imagine how useful this could be. Just as an example, driving down the road and somebody cuts you off in traffic. How do you normally react? I think most of us, we normally react by having a thought, which is, I'm pissed. And then what happens next? You immediately, habitually, reflexively inhabit that thought. You actually become pissed. There's no buffer between the stimulus and your reaction. With just a little bit of mindfulness, in that same situation, you might notice my chest is buzzing, my ears are turning red, I'm having a starburst of self-righteous thoughts, I'm getting angry. But you don't necessarily have to act on it and chase that person down the road, screaming at them with your kids in the back of the car thinking you've gone nuts. Now, you might be thinking, don't I need to get angry sometimes? Aren't I justified? I would say yes, but probably not as much as you think. The proposition here is not that you should be rendered by mindfulness into some lifeless, non-judgmental blob. The proposition is that you should learn how to respond wisely to things that happen to you, rather than just reacting blindly. And that, my friends, is a superpower. How do you get it? The way to get it is through meditation. I believe that meditation and mindfulness are the next big public health revolution. In the 1940s, if you told somebody you were going running, they would have said, who's chasing you? But then what happened next? The scientists swooped in, they showed that physical exercise is really good for you, and now all of us do it, and if we don't, we feel guilty about it. And that's where I think we're headed with mindfulness and meditation. It's going to join the pantheon of no-brainers like brushing your teeth, eating well, and taking the meds your doctor prescribed for you. Let me just close by saying, mindfulness is not going to solve all of your problems. It's not going to render your life a nonstop parade of unicorns and rainbows. Nonetheless, this is a superpower, and one that is accessible by you immediately.
So Happify's video really captures what we want to talk about when we talk about mindfulness. And I also wanted to recognize that I see some raised hands and also some comments, and I wanted to save those for the end since we have a packed agenda today. And I will hopefully get those to you, just shortly. So mindfulness and meditation practices the benefits of those are just incredible. These are some of those benefits for individuals that have practiced mindfulness and meditation practices. Digestion runs more smoothly. Individuals report diminished pain and emotion regulation. Swelling subsides. Increased compassion. Your brain releases more happiness chemicals and attention increases. Imagine decrease in irritability from practicing some of these mindfulness practices. And I wanted to share with you something that many people think that mindfulness means that you need to sit on a cushion somewhere and practice meditation for 25 to 30 minutes sitting quietly. And although meditation does increase your mindfulness state, and you will get more benefits if you do practice for longer periods of time sitting quietly and practicing in a meditation, you definitely can get some of these benefits by implementing mindfulness within your daily routines. And that's what we're going to talk about next. So it is with wonder and curiosity that we approach the world. And I'm asking that you have some wonder and curiosity as we continue with this presentation, and think about how you can implement some of these mindfulness practices in your daily routines. And it's not to say that you wouldn't implement a meditation practice. It's important to cultivate meditation and mindfulness in a meditation practice. I'm in no way saying don't do that. I'm saying you can implement mindfulness in your daily routines. So Marsha Linehan, the founder and creator of dialectical behavior therapy, has a nice way to talk about connecting to our senses, about becoming an observer, noticing body sensations coming through your senses, paying attention on purpose to the present moment, controlling your attention, but not what you see, pushing away nothing and clinging to nothing, practicing wordless watching, going out on a walk and doing some wordless watching, observing both inside and outside of yourself. And these are some things about having a childlike mind and observing things for the very first time. So to do that and practice that, there's a 5 senses mindfulness exercise that we're going to engage in now. That is an excellent tool as a grounding exercise. I use it when I'm overwhelmed and need to be grounded in the present moment. And this is an exercise that we're going to try. It's a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 exercise, and it's the 5 senses exercise. So with wonder and curiosity, I'm going to invite you to, if you're willing, to get yourself in a comfortable position, whatever that means for you, either seated or lying down. We'll be using our 5 senses to the extent to which we are able to connect to the world around us. If you don't have access to a particular sense, then feel free to skip that prompt or repeat a previous prompt. Make it effective for you. So to the extent that you are willing, follow along as I guide you through this brief connecting to your senses meditation. First, using your sense of sight, observe 5 things you can see. Just observe as if you're observing for the very first time. Next, 4 things you can hear. Maybe something you hear that's near you, like a fan, or outside, like a car passing by. Simply notice 4 things you can hear. Three things you can touch, like the seat beneath you, or the feel of your clothes on your skin. Notice 3 things you can touch. What do they feel like? 2 things you can smell. Perhaps you can smell the laundry detergent you use to clean your clothes. 2 things you can smell. And finally, 1 thing you can taste. Perhaps there's already a taste in your mouth, or you have a beverage nearby you can take a sip. Simply notice. This is an excellent grounding exercise and can really help when things feel like they're spinning out of control. I use it when I'm feeling overwhelmed and stressed out and feel like I have no control to ground myself in the present moment. Hopefully this is something you can take with you when you're feeling overwhelmed. I do it on walks. I can do it when I'm just feeling overwhelmed and need to ground myself. Connecting to your senses. And we know these things won't happen unless we make them part of our routine. We know as educators, we need to make things part of our routine. So when I first started mindfulness, I started with an easy task of making it part of my toothbrushing routine. And I used this. Notice X, let go of our thoughts, let your feelings be. So implementing it within a toothbrushing routine, noticing the toothpaste, noting the bristles, what does it smell like, doing the 5 senses meditation with toothbrushing brought me more mindfulness and actually brought me cleaner teeth. I have the data from the dentist. Also, those benefits that we talked about earlier. There's both psychological and physiological benefits to mindfulness. Connecting to our senses during routine activities. So if you notice X, let go of your thoughts and just let your feelings be on breaks, while you're walking, doing mindful eating, drinking your morning coffee or tea, even while you're checking email or completing paperwork. What does it feel like to have the pen on the paper? Letting go of your thoughts and letting your feelings be. Putting these things inside your regular routines and activities can cultivate some of those excellent psychological and physiological benefits that we talked about earlier. How about opening up to possibilities, becoming willing? I don't know about you, but during COVID, I've been reading lots of articles, and all of those articles have been suggesting for me to do something for my mind, body, and being, and that being something for my values, something related to my values, or something related to my spirit, or something that was supporting me throughout my journey and my self-care and well-being. We see these things all the time: self-care for educators and caregivers, opportunities for us to provide care for ourselves, pay attention to how we're feeling, limit our news intake, remember to breathe like we've been talking about, keep a journal. All of these things are great suggestions. But you might say to me, but wait, Renee, my life is like this. How am I supposed to implement all of these great self-care ideas when I'm stressed out, when there isn't time in the day, and I really have not much opportunity to put these things into my day-to-day routine like you're suggesting? Well, perhaps we need to open up to some possibilities. But first, we need to bring down our distress. And we can do that by distress tolerance types of activities and mindfulness activities. And one is to stop. Stop what it is that we're doing, breathe, and proceed mindfully. So here's our third mindfulness activity of today. And for time's sake, I'm not going to lead you through this one. I'm going to show it to you in your reflective notes. It is to stop. It is to take a few deep breaths. It is to observe your physical body, your emotions, how you're feeling mentally, and then it is to proceed. Proceed in how it is that you're going to take care of yourself. You can't select a self-care activity if you're not open to the possibilities of what could be different for you. If you're not open to the possibilities and you're having thoughts that it's not possible. So we're going to talk about having thoughts and proceeding in a mindful direction and being open to possibilities. So what gets in the way of taking care of ourselves? Well, stress gets in the way of taking care of ourselves. That's a big barrier. Wrestling with comparing and judging minds, all of those shoulds that get in the way. Big feelings minds like shame. Shame shuts down the centers of being able to carry out some of these great things that we know will take care of us. Sadness and fear. And then we have unrealistic expectations from ourselves and others that gets in the way of taking care of ourselves. Mr. Rogers, my hero, captured this in The World According to Mr. Rogers, Important Things to Remember. And a tip for you, if you want inspirational material, The World According to Mr. Rogers, Important Things to Remember, his book, putting that into a morning routine is a very inspirational way to start your day. He says, there are no should or should not when it comes to having feelings. They're a part of who we are, and their origins are beyond our control. When we can believe that, we may find it easier to make constructive choices about what to do with those feelings. And what he's talking about is what is and is out of our control. My positive attitude is in my control during COVID and beyond, turning off the news, finding fun things to do at home, limiting my social media, my kindness and grace, my own social distancing, and leaving out those things that are out of my control. So when we talk about opening to possibilities, it's putting the and in place of the buts. It's saying that I can have the thought that I am feeling anxious and set boundaries for myself. Because I can have the thought that I can't put my arm down and I can put my arm down. Is it possible that I can squeeze in 5 minutes of mindful eating and then work on my lesson for 30 minutes and have the thought that I am overworked and underappreciated? I definitely can. I am not my thoughts. I can have the thought that I am overworked and underappreciated, but I can still do these things for myself. I am resilient. You are resilient. I am curious. I can have a curious mind and use the Sleepiest app, which is a wonderful app, 3 times per week as I go to bed and see if it will have an impact on my ruminating thoughts. Getting unstuck. How do we do that? Well, we connect to our senses, mindfulness and meditation. We get to a place of and change our perspective. We let go of what is out of our control and pay attention to what's in our control. We get to a place of acceptance. We engage in physical activity. We know that physical activity can help us move through stress. We cope ahead. We envision us being successful in a stressful situation, using skills that we know we have, being resilient in those situations. We envision that. And then we go forth and do. We cope ahead. We create pro-con lists of what it would be like if we were to care for ourselves under these conditions. And we write mini goals. We don't write huge goals that we're going to do our yoga practice 5 or 7 days a week. Maybe we're going to do it 1 day a week and start small. 1% changes lead to large changes in the long term. And we need to arrange our environment to support us. Clear our clutter, to have a clear mind, put up reminders around our environment, ask for help when we need help, set our materials out ahead of time, put out the yoga clothes ahead of time so that we're ready in the morning, put up motivational, inspirational signs that we can get things done. For example, I will put reminders in my workspace to remind me I have conquered these tasks before when I'm having the thought that I am overwhelmed. When I am having that thought, I am not my thoughts, I can put up those reminders. I'll use the alarm on my watch to remind me to do 4 square breathing, and then 30 minutes of email I'll repeat every hour. I'll download a free app like Relax and Sleep and listen to the sounds as I go to sleep 2 times per week and see if I fall asleep any better. I'll be curious. I'll have that curious mind. Relax and Sleep is an excellent app to use to support you if you have ruminating thoughts as you're falling asleep, as a way to train your brain to listen to sounds instead of the ruminating thoughts and letting yourself relax into sleep. And reminding yourself you've got this because you've arranged your environment to support you as you move through. All of this is not easy. So you need to set up reinforcers and accumulate those positives to keep you going. And your reinforcers look different than others' reinforcers. And you know this from working with your students. You need to find what works for you. A thumbs up and good job might not be enough for you. So find what works for you. Don't forget to celebrate the small successes. Those small successes are what moves the needle to the larger successes. This is a great time to remember your passions and your why you got into education in the first place. It is so difficult right now to remember those whys, and a values exercise at this time. And the better we get connected to our why and remind us that we're working with students and making a difference in the lives of students, even though it looks different. We're reinforcing the reason we're doing these things in the first place. Connect with others and share your successes. Send a text, let them know you had a successful day. Let your colleagues know. It's different now. We don't get to do that in the hallway. So send a text, write a letter. Write out gratitude lists and share them. This will be a plug for our webinar that's coming up. We have a webinar on gratitude and self-compassion because the research literature supports that gratitude has an excellent impact on the well-being of individuals. Select someone to send a gratitude list, text a gratitude list to at the end of the day, or before you get out of your car in the morning, or before you start your Zoom meeting, I should say. To send 3 gratitudes and have them send 3 gratitudes back. It's powerful. And spread kindness in whatever way that looks for you. But most of all, practice self-compassion during these difficult times. Be kind to yourself. Self-compassion is key during these difficult times. So remember to connect to your senses, open to possibilities, arrange your environment, and reinforce. This is how you'll soar through this school year. But you won't get there unless you make a commitment. And so I provided you with a committed action plan. And here's an example of someone that wanted to create balance in their life. They connected to their value, what they care about of creating harmony and balance or work-life balance. And you may be giggling on the other end of the internet right now about a 40-hour work week, but this is what the goal was for this educator. They really, really wanted to create a 40-hour work week for themselves. And they knew that the things that were getting in the way were negative thinking and perfectionism and fear. And they could set a predictable work schedule and set up boundaries if that was the action that would get them there. They were not setting boundaries at work. What strategy would get them unstuck is if they arranged their environment and decluttered it, if they actually reinforced their own time management, and if they let go of perfectionism. They were spending a lot of time on their lessons and comparing to their colleagues. And they thought if they accumulated positives and asked for help, those strategies would help them get unstuck and they would be able to commit to a 40-hour work week, even though they were having thoughts that wouldn't be possible, even though they were having thoughts that would not be acceptable. So they committed to this action plan. So I encourage you to use this format if it's something that would work for you, to make a commitment to creating a self-care plan for you. Of course, if you're needing more care, this is from the National Institutes of Health. It's just something to check in with yourself. There's some self-care activities that can help. But if things are getting and interfering with your daily life, this is just some information from the National Institutes of Health to check in with yourself to see if more supports are needed from professionals. So I just wanted to include this here for anyone that's feeling like they need more supports. I encourage you to watch Dr. Russ Harris's video, Face COVID. I included the link in your reflective notes. It's an excellent, it includes a lot of what we've been talking about with SOAR, with connecting to your senses, as well as open to possibilities, arranging your environment, and reinforce. And it's all tips around facing COVID based on acceptance and commitment therapy. And he's the author of The Happiness Trap. I highly recommend watching his video, and the link is in your reflective notes, as well as the paper copy of information is in your resources handout. So in review, you learned about stressors affecting educators' well-being. You learned simple but not always easy ways to decrease stressors. You learned and experienced 3 mindfulness meditation exercises, and you learned about a committed self-care action plan. I encourage you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram. I'm posting Wellness Warrior Wednesday tips across the 8 dimensions of educator and well-being, as well as Mindful Monday tips. And I encourage you to fill out the contact form for free resources.